Welcome to Business Analytics. Today's topic would be Introduction to R. The learning objects for this session would be to understand why we would be using R, installing R Studio desktop version, understanding the nitty-gritties of R Studio, setting up your working directory, installation of packages and libraries in R Studio, the Google page for R, and the top 8 packages that one should be knowing. Apart from this, we would be touching upon something like data mining in R with graphical user interfaces, and then with usage of some of the packages like Swirl, we will be understanding how would be using some of the tutorials in R. That would be the fun aspect, and this is what we would be doing today. Now, why are we talking about data overload, big data, right? So basically, if you see, shares traded on the US stock market on any average day is around roughly 7 billion. Data generated in one flight from New York to London, 10 terabytes. Now this what we are talking is just something which has been recorded last time. This would have almost crossed double of what we are seeing on the screen. Data is too large, too complex for conventional data tools to handle, capture, manipulate, analyze and predict, and that's why we are talking about the 4 V's of big data. Just to mention that what we are showing on the screen today is 3 V's, but in fact it has moved on to the 4 V's of big data: volume, variety, velocity and veracity of the data, that is the quality aspect. 90% of the data was generated in the last 2 years, and that is what is talking about the quantum of data. Obviously it has become huge, difficult to manage, a lot of value in it. That's why we need analytics. What is business analytics? Data on its own is useless, right? That's what we would term. How would we use historic data, do something about it so that it could help us into understanding future? Can we predict whether a plane might malfunction when it is on 30,000 feet? Can we understand much before when anything could happen? Like for example, a manufacturing plant developing a snag. Can we understand whether a person would default when he is actually applying for a loan from a bank? If we could do that by looking at our historic data, yes, we would be predictive in nature, and that is where business sees value in business analytics. It's about predicting by using your history. Can I look at your historic past and understand what can happen in future? And that's why business analytics is there. What are the key issues which business would try to resolve using analytics, right? So for instance, a bank might be interested in understanding how can we identify whether a customer might default, right? That's the risk aspect. A telecom company would be interested in understanding whether a customer would opt out of the services, for example, terminate the postpaid connection. A company which is into HR analysis might be interested in understanding which is the resource who is going to put down the papers in the next 2 months, right? Because we need to do resource planning. Now, till now it was only when an employee would put in his resignation, that's where we would understand. Analytics seeks to answer that question. Can we see this happening in future? So what are the things we can do about it? For instance, if it's a good resource, we can try to retain him, right? If it's not that good resource, we can try to churn that resource much before he takes that decision, right? So these are the few questions which business would be interested in analyzing. Obviously, there are a lot of things which analytics can do, and we'll answer those questions as we get into the topics and handle case by case each of these cases. Now, why is there a growing need for analytics? Were we not accessing data before this? No. We were accessing that, but we had some issues. Issues were we couldn't store data. Today, we don't have a problem about storing data. We don't have a problem about platforms to handle this kind of data, and that is why you're storing more. Just think about 10 years back, if you would have had gone to any IT store to purchase a pen drive, right, a flash drive basically, the size of that would have been how much? I don't think it would have been more than 1 GB, right? And that too would have been at a premium cost. Today, 32 GB would be a normal storage size, and imagine an enterprise what size of storage it would be having. And obviously we are not removing data, we are retaining data, and that is why now you're thinking, if I have so much of data, what can I do about it? And that is where analytics comes into picture, right? So it's access to better tools and technologies which helps us manage more data, and in turn starts that ticking in our brain as to what can we do about it. That's why analytics.